Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Lore. Today we'll be doing a book review of Star Wars Battlefront Twilight Company by Alexander Freed. So first off, I have some pretty good impressions of this book. My first glance at the book, seeing the Battlefront kind of tagline and knowing it'd be a video game EA rendition, I was a little worried about the actual substance of the book. But I was genuinely surprised of actually how good it is. It's not perfect by any means, but it is really good. It's not a conventional Star Wars novel by any means. It doesn't really deal with tons of lightsabers or complex things in general, but instead it really focuses on a small group of individuals in the Rebel Alliance called Twilight Company. And Twilight Company is literally, they're the ground soldiers, the first one in, last one out kind of mentality of the rebellion. They're the foot soldiers. They have the small ship called the Thunderstrike, and they just are always put in these rough spots for the Alliance. We basically follow Namir, who is a sergeant, but also later kind of becomes their leader, and we follow kind of his perspective of the story, and he bumps into this governor or former governor Chalice, who is kind of their friend throughout the story. Don't want to get too much into the plot. I'll do a 2-minute summary of the book so you can get all the details. Just want to give an overview of what I thought. So this book is really entertaining at times. You get to see the inner workings of the foot soldiers for the Alliance, and also some perspective of stormtroopers. They do a little bit in and out of a particular stormtrooper, and it's actually kind of scary if you think about it, because we see how the rebels didn't really play fair or nice. For example, a quote here is, fighting alone meant guerrilla tactics and dirty tricks instead of formations and shield domes and air support. It meant setting death traps and shooting people from behind and slitting their throats while they slept. It meant, as Namir recalled, being told by one recruit before she abandoned the company, performing acts that felt more like murder than war. So you couple this with some of the perspectives of stormtroopers in this, and they get kind of frightened, as the rebels are sometimes just bloodthirsty terrorists in their perspective. You see at one instance a rebel who's basically holding thermal detonator and tries to suicide bomb herself. And you see from the perspective of stormtroopers where they're just always worried, just walking, and there's just people peeking, like could shoot them at any time, but there's really nothing you can do. It's kind of that feeling as you see this a lot just in general in wars today, where people are patrolling, they have to protect something, but they can't engage unless they're engaged. So you don't know who's a civilian, who's not. And it kind of ties into Saw Gerrera and some of his tactics throughout the Star Wars universe. It kind of shows the dirtier side of the rebellion, kind of like Rogue One a little bit in times, but even more, because the Twilight Company and the rebels pretty much will do anything to get out. But on the flip side, the Empire is still terrible, right? They have chemical weapons that they use on the rebels in this book, and they do a lot of bad stuff too. But overall, this book really focuses on two characters, Chalice and Namir, and I think the book does a good job developing those two characters really well. And you really get a good perspective of those two characters who aren't super Rebel Alliance supporters. They kind of have their own intentions and their own motives, and to see them work together makes a good story. And I liked this Star Wars novel because it kind of focused less on space battles and politics and things like that, and showed some varying things we don't get to see that much. One instance I really liked is they talk about, when they ran out of blaster ammo and packs, they had to form bayonets on their weapons just to survive. So you really have that day-to-day life of the company, how they have to hold recruitment sessions on planets they conquer just to refill their ranks because they lose so many people. But now on to kind of the analysis of the book. Overall, I think it's pretty good. I would give it probably 3.5 to 4, somewhere in there, maybe 3.7, 3.8 out of 5. I give it that because when it's good, this book is good. But sometimes it takes some time for the plot to kind of get going, and it takes too much time to get there sometimes. There's instances where it is brilliant, like on Hoth and the finale at Solist, where it's intriguing, it's fast-paced, things are happening, the plot is moving. But sometimes in between, there's just a lot of I don't want to say just talking and filler, but there's just events that do we really need to spend that much time on? And you want to see that background chatter and how these soldiers kind of feel during these times, but sometimes it's just really, really slow to get going. A little clunky at times, but overall it's really enjoyable. I think this book was definitely well written by Alexander Freed. He provides good characters that you do care about, a fun story that ties into some of the original movie trilogies well enough to be enjoyable, but not too much, too overbearing, like some comics and books where they just throw in Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader for the entire thing just so you will buy it kind of mentality. This one's has a really good Darth Vader scene that I think's really well written. It's one of the best parts of the book, but it's short enough where the book just doesn't hinge on that, and it's not just like, hey, this is a Darth Vader Hoth battle kind of thing. So overall, very good book. Not the best thing ever, but to no fault of the author, I just think could have moved up the pace of the book at certain times. But definitely a lot better than I thought it was. Definitely 3.5, 4 stars out of 5. And I would recommend getting this book. I'll be doing a full 2-minute summary so you can kind of get the gist of the book. So take a look when that comes out. Thanks for watching this review of Star Wars Battlefront Twilight Company. I'll see you on the next video.